And we're live. Welcome back, Ego Hackers. This is part 3 of the craziest interrogation you'll ever see. And we have been psychoanalyzing this particular interrogation every step of the way, and which has been pretty fun. It's about an ISFP 15-year-old who convinced her ENTP boyfriend and an ENTP friend to murder her father. Wow. And apparently that's just kind of been how it's playing out. I am told that this particular documentary gets better and better as we go, and gets crazier and crazier as we go. So we shall see how that actually goes, and let's get some good participation this evening. And it's a lot of folks are quite happy to do these. I'm going to be doing some other streams just for variety's sake. I'm going to be doing a lot of true crime. I think I'm also going to be doing some political things as well as relationship drama. But for those of you who have been DMing me recommendations, we're probably going to open up a channel on our Discord server where you could just drop links in it without commenting. It'll be links only of things that you would like my commentary on. So Mr. Fib, the madman, will be creating that channel for us in the Discord server, hopefully tonight, so that you guys can actually do that. If you want to get on our Discord, I'm going to be putting the link in the stream chat right now, which is https://discord.gg/egohackers. I don't know, look at the commentary channel or something like that. I have no idea. Or CSJ Reacts. Big, that would work. CSJ-Reacts. So yes, hello from Singapore. Yes, well, hello from Idaho, I guess. Yeah. Oh, yes, the Bachelorette stream, yeah, which the copyright stuff was pretty difficult. We're still trying to figure out how to get around that kind of problem. If anyone has any tips on how I can improve my performance as a streamer to that end, let me know. And we might actually bring this to Twitch as well and actually have a lot better stream quality, like certain chats, like our Discord chat, actually live on the stream, so we can actually see people react in real time to the craziness. So yeah, hello, somebody from Palestine. So yeah, let's just get down to it. We're gonna pick up right exactly where we left off, and right now they are interrogating Mr. Gavin in the back. Gavin is the ENTP. We have this ESTJ here. And then this guy's type is unknown, although visually he kind of looks like an ENFJ or an INTP. So we'll see how that goes. So let's let her rip.
House. And then there was one time he came over banging on my door because he was all mad. I actually called you guys for that because I was like, I didn't want to go out the door, look out the window to see anything because I didn't know if he had a gun or not. But
how long ago was that?
I didn't know if he had a gun or not. That's just a expert intuition, like, defense thing to say, to downplay the fact that he murdered this guy.
Called us.
I think it was a month ago.
And then when was the situation where he pointed a gun at you? Where was that? Where did that happen, and how long ago was that?
Gavin describes his interactions with Aaron as being characterized by fear. He claims that Aaron threatened him more than once. Beyond Gavin's reports of Aaron's threatening behavior, Ellen claimed to him that Aaron abused her. The fear response is an evolutionary physiological survival mechanism that's triggered in reaction to perceived impending harm. It's otherwise termed the fight or flight response, which includes the... We'll discuss the fight or flight response.
Nice.
This was where I knew that he didn't like me or whatever, and like, I came over and...
Dude, Aaron Fryer's an ISTP. He doesn't like anybody.
He's like, what the hell are you doing here? And
Well, yeah. What the hell are you doing there, SE parent? You're like, my daughter is underage. You're not. Get the hell out. It's pretty obvious, dude. Like, come on. Does your FE child even have any remote social awareness whatsoever? I mean, given that he is subconscious, developed, unconscious, focused as an ENTP, like Gavin here. So let's look at that. So his masculine primary function is introverted intuition. Okay. So that would basically mean that he really, I believe that means he really, really struggles using FE child. It's like his social awareness is just absolutely, it's dog shit. Let's be honest. And SDUF ENTPs typically do have dog shit social awareness. I mean, we see this all the time with little man's Jordan on our on the Ego Hackers Discord server. So, I mean, okay, makes sense.
And then I'm like, I was here to say hi to Ellie. She said that I was to come over. He's like, no. So he grabbed a gun and was like, get the fuck out of here. I'm giving you 20 seconds.
Did Ellie witness that?
No. I don't know what caused him to not like me anymore.
Okay.
So
maybe the fact that you're like banging his underage daughter.
he was really chillaxed. I mean, he was, of course, being like the protective dad. He said, I'll knock out your teeth if you ever hurt my daughter. And I was like, yeah, I understand.
Does he drink a lot?
So, yes, he is an alcoholic.
If Aaron suffered from alcoholism, Ellen could have been in a considerably unstable environment. Children of individuals who struggle with alcoholism or more greater consumption of
You get this text.
to greater rates of inappropriate, unwanted advances.
So you get this text yesterday, last night, and when you got over there, what time of the morning do you think it is now that you guys arrived?
Okay, now they're still establishing timelines so that they can figure out if anyone has an actual alibi.
It was 2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning is when you guys get there? Okay.
Gavin must be in his hero mindset, believing that the investigators view his crime as morally justifiable. Once Gavin is primed to be more receptive, open, and honest, the primary investigator dives into information gathering. Note that the second investigator is present to ensure proper execution of Step 9 of the Reed interrogation technique, converting an oral confession into a written confession. A third party witnesses and writes down.
Yeah, but again, like when it comes to interrogators, like you should have your lawyer present and you should be pleading the fifth over and over and over, just like Jeffrey Epstein did in his interrogation. People are such idiots.
Suspects' confessions.
Where is she at when you first see her?
She's poking her head out the window, being like, hey, come on in.
Out of her bedroom window? Okay.
Yeah, it's part of their plan.
And what do you and RJ do at that point?
At that point, RJ was like, okay, and then,
Oh, he just realized he made a mistake. That's where introverted sensing inferior is like, oh my gosh, the jig is up, basically. And then FE child is finally just like, finally come to the table. It's like, oh crap, I really messed up here.
gas bubble or something.
Okay.
No. Nice little white lie there, ENTP.
I go in the window, RJ waits outside.
He waits outside,
Yeah.
and then do the bags start getting passed out the window?
Yeah.
How many bags do you think she has ready to go at that point when you get there?
Gavin appears calm and collected, unaffected by his present circumstances. However, as the investigator probes more deeply into the specific...
Yeah, this happens because like extroverted sensing demon is just like completely just out to lunch right now and not aware of the reactions or what other people are doing and actually willfully ignorant of it.
...of that night, Gavin crosses his arms tightly over his chest. This is a self-pacifying behavior, a self-hug meant to reduce stress and regulate emotions.
When we got there, she had 4 bags. She had a guitar.
The pellet rifle.
The pellet rifle, yeah. And then she had like a makeup kit and then another thing in it.
So now it's you and Ellie in the bedroom, and you mentioned that Dad heard you. Did Dad hear you guys in there? Or did...
Well, he got up and then Ellie was like, oh, I'll just go out and act like I'm going to the bathroom or whatever. Because, I mean, I didn't want this guy to come in and start beating the crap out of me.
So how'd the conversation go between Ellie and her dad at that point when she's saying, I got up and went to go pee?
And he's like, all right, well, stop scaring me with all the people trying to break in lately. And I
Yeah, which corroborates what was said earlier.
was like, wait, what? that was the first night we had gone. I mean, we went over there last night, but, I mean, we didn't go for it because her dad's
We didn't go for it. We didn't murder him that night.
girlfriend was there.
Okay.
Saturday night.
So you'd went over there Saturday night to try to get her out of there.
Yeah. I know I'm in serious trouble, aren't I?
Well, we need to figure out what happened. And,
Well, we need to figure out what happened. Yes, a very, very good SE critic response with his DI nemesis. It's kind of interesting how sometimes extroverted thinking heroes can really disarm TI parent types, specifically just as a result of just doing the TI nemesis thing, where like, well, I don't really know. You tell me, that kind of a thing. I don't know, and it's almost as if this ESTJ is semi-pretending to be stupid and completely allowing himself to be devoid of judgment, ethical judgment, which is necessary for extroverted feeling demon to be present within these interrogations. Because when you're dealing with FE child, having an extroverted feeling demon present, it can be really disarming. So I got to give props to the investigators here for utilizing this person to conduct this particular interrogation.
There's a lot of things in play here, but so now you've been there about 20 minutes before Ellie interacts with her dad.
His tone is even, and his responses are level, but when Gavin removes his jacket, we can reasonably assume that he is more stressed than he's letting on. Actions like tugging at a shirt collar or removing clothing, as Gavin does here, may be referred to as ventilating behaviors. When circumstances are heating up, humans may lean on these behaviors to cool down.
Well, it's not just that, but also their body temperature increases with stress. So it's a typical SI inferior response.
And I know this is going to be a little bit difficult to talk about, Gavin, but you got to be 100% honest and truthful with this. What happens next?
So then Ellie got out, and they waited in the car, and then...
So he's saying that Ellie got out of the window basically, and then waited in the car with RJ.
Ellie went to the car?
Yeah.
Did she go out the window or the front door?
She went out the window.
Okay.
As Gavin answers, he rubs his nose. While nose touching under high-stress circumstances does not necessarily indicate deception, it does indicate heightened stress. It appears
it does. I have actually a touching nose stress response to the point where even members of this community have stated that I'm a cocaine addict because of it. But in reality, I'm just really, really stressed, and that's definitely a huge tell. It's kind of hard to hide, actually, when I'm playing poker, for example.
Here's the Gavin's feeling.
And it is very common with SI inferiors.
Feelings of discomfort are building.
And when you said they waited in the car, are you talking about RJ and her?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that the car is seen on video on a surveillance camera at a neighbor's house, leaving at about 5:50 in the morning. If you're getting into the bedroom at about 2:30, you're talking about 3 hours until you guys leave. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. That entire 3-hour time, what's going on inside the bedroom? I mean, what's the purpose of waiting so long?
We were trying to wait for him to fall asleep again so that we could get out.
Okay.
And then he starts to wake up, and I just acted on instinct.
Okay, so basically, this ENTP is trying to push the narrative of self-defense, basically. That's the narrative he's leading up to. Too bad for him that the police found written plans about taking their dad out and murdering him. Written plans. If they didn't have those written plans, basically, that were ultimately discovered, then he would have had an opportunity at stating self-defense, and then could have said, "Oh, well, we just freaked out. We didn't know what to do. We got scared, dumped the body. A bunch of scared little kids, etc." And it wouldn't have been murder one, right? But instead, it's obviously premeditated because it has something written. Come on. So he's trying to. So this ENTP is doing a classic ENTP lying tactic here. Okay, it's a tactic. It's not a strategy, because he's trying to create this narrative. But here's the problem. when you're dealing with a group scenario, when you're an interrogator and you have multiple criminals or multiple suspects committing the crime, the ENTPs like think that they can pull this off, but they never can, because the entire group would have to be in on the narrative ahead of time. They would have had to pre-plan that narrative, but the narrative wasn't pre-planned, so it's just a cheap narrative tactic that he's doing with extrovert intuition hero to spin a web. Now the narrative would work if everybody else being interrogated, this is prisoner's dilemma now from a game theory perspective. If they had this narrative of like, oh well, or if they all kept their mouths shut from pleading the fifth with a lawyer present, like maybe that would work, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So he is relying on an age-old habit of his creating narrative. Now, don't get me wrong, ENTPs are amazing at creating narrative. ENTPs understand lying better than any of the other 16 types, because the ENTP forms of lies, the best lies that they utilize are twofold. And I've said this many times. But the first one is the best lies are the ones that you can make come true, right? Which he can't obviously do here. So he has to rely on the next tactic. Always mix some truth with your lie so that it makes the lie more believable. Okay, that's the other thing. But the problem is that there are two other people involved. And those two people would have to keep their mouths shut. Now, here's the thing. Other than the fact that they have written evidence as to like the plan of how it was supposed to go, the ENTP is probably imagining to himself right now that, okay, they were in the car. They were in, like, those other people in the car, so they didn't exactly witness what happened. No one witnessed what happened. So I have plausible deniability, right? And plausible deniability is oftentimes what ENTPs do to use the second form of lying that ENTPs specialize in, right? Mixing in truth with lies. And because it's like, oh, it's plausible deniability. I could have gotten into a fight and then I just defended myself and then we freaked out and then dumped the body, etc. Like this is obviously the narrative that he's going for, right? The problem is that with that narrative, it's not going to work. It's not going to work because they have that written plan that shows that that's entirely premeditated, right? So it's just stupid. All the more reason that he should have just lawyered up and pled the fifth and done nothing but that. That's what he should have done, but he decided not to because they're just kids. They don't know, even though he's technically a 19-year-old adult, but still.
And I don't know what I was doing.
We know that Gavin
So yeah, I don't know what it was doing.
Gavin was aware of what he was doing, but it appears that he displays little to no signs of discomfort or deception in this moment.
And then
discomfort or deception, yes, because here's the thing about ENTP masks. They are extremely good at looking innocent while lying. That is how extroverted feeling child is utilized, okay? They're very, very good at it. It's funny because, like, you'd think that UDUF ENTPs are very, very good at lighting, but, that FI shows through, and it usually ends up blowing up in their face. It's the UDSF ones and the SDUF ones that you have to really watch out for.
Hitting him until he stopped, and then I heard, gurgling, and I was like, what's going on? I'm really sorry.
Next, Gavin does something unexpected.
I know you are, and I know this is difficult. And that's what we're
trying to help. Sorry.
Yeah, the FE child is in play, but it's a personal defense. It's a person. He's exposing FE child here in order to garner sympathy to make it easier for himself. Again, this is still classic ENTP SDUF lying. This is entirely fake. This is not legitimate. This is entirely fake, and it's extremely hard to detect. He's wearing a mask.
Let me ask you this, Gavin, were you upset because of everything that Ellie had told you?
Okay, now they're trying to establish motive. Yeah, and then he said that. Okay, and now he's agreeing. So basically, he's agreeing with the motive. He just gave them motive. They got me like they have him dead to rights.
Okay.
I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to kill him.
Right, but why not at 4:30 when you know she has the keys? Why not just everybody go out the window and leave?
Ellie hates her parents. She doesn't want to go back there again. She wanted him dead, but I didn't want to kill him. And I was like, I'm not going to kill him. She was all like, no, I don't.
Okay, so now he is starting to blame shift.
I don't want him around him. I don't want him around my sisters anymore. So sorry. I'm going to prison for murder, aren't I?
Well, that's what we need to figure out here. We need to figure out what your intent was, and it's important to know.
I'm trying to protect Ellie.
Okay.
My boss will try it.
So do you think that Ellie could have influenced Gavin?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So how this has like shifted is like yes. SDUF ENTPs are actually very easily influenced by sob stories. Extremely, very easily influenced by sob stories. And to the point where it can actually create desire into their anti-masculine primary function to basically do anything. But the problem is with an SDUF ENTP is that their anti-masculine primary, it actually believes it's able to get through any situation like an anti-hero when the reality situation, it just can't. It can see what to avoid, but it can't see how to succeed. It can avoid failure per se, but it can't see how to succeed. And because of that, it ends up creating this downward spiral of failure anyway. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the problem with unconscious SDUF types. They really need to get back into their subconscious focus to get out of that introverted intuition nemesis endless cycle and get into the self-disciplined introverted sensing thing where they're actually like establishing standards and boundaries. He basically allowed this woman to lead him instead of him leading this woman, basically. But if he was exhibiting proper leadership, there's so many other things that like that he could have done, other than the fact that he was obviously having a sexual relationship with an underage girl. But there's so many wiser decisions that he could have made, but he didn't.
I would never see my nephew acting in that behavior of brutally killing somebody. From my point of view and everybody else, my family, we all agree that Ellie was 100% at fault.
Yeah, that's correct. Dougo made a comment in the stream. It's enough masculine idealism to kill somebody, but not to take full responsibility or take the blame. SDUF ENTPs are insanely good at shifting blame. We see this all the time, actually, on the Ego Hackers Discord with the SDUF ENTPs that are present. And the thing is though, if they just realize that they're a lot stronger. And it would because here's the thing, SDUF ENTPs are so focused on looking at their own future that they don't pay enough attention to their past. And what an SDUF ENTP needs to learn how to do is pay more attention to their past so they can actually self-reflect and look at, hey, this is what I've been through. I'm actually pretty strong. I've actually gone through a lot. Okay, that's pretty awesome. I can move forward from that point of view. I can... And then this allows them to actually lean into their discipline instead of trying to willpower their way through everything, basically.
It was not long before Gavin admitted to his role in executing Aaron's murder. As opposed to Ellen, he put up little to no resistance, immediately acknowledging that the events that morning had transgressed and that he had solely swung the bat that killed Aaron. Russell would prove even less resistant, uninhibitedly spilling nearly all details involved in the crime. Just as Gavin stated he was doing, Russell insisted that he was protecting Ellen, What we are about to observe is among the most bizarre behavior we have seen in an interrogation up to this point.
All right, so now we're switching over to RJ or Russell.
Is that a camera?
This is an UDUF ENTP.
I'd
Yep,
rather
camera.
not have a camera aimed at me.
I don't, we can talk to Detective Ford, but I think they're required to, so it's nothing.
Like, I'm
I mean,
not
I've had a body cam all day, I mean.
Well, yeah, but see, I
My
don't...
friend, we're recorded wherever we go. You know that.
Even the police bathroom?
Seems like it. Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a seat, man. That way I can sit down.
Well, you can sit down.
Seems like it. Probably, yeah. Okay, so this police officer sounds like a body temple wayfarer to me so far.
Well, I'm not allowed to sit unless you're sitting, so that way I can sit. Well.
Russell tries to show dominance and control by stating he doesn't want to be recorded, and then after the officer tells him he can sit down, he replies, "You can sit down." This immediately shows he's trying to display his lack of fear of authority. Of the three who participated in the crime earlier that morning, Russell appears to be the least impacted. While Gavin's behavior evolved from casually polite to distraught, and Ellen's from flat to angry, Russell's is steadily lighthearted and upbeat. His conduct
Yeah, ESFP superego.
is eccentric, driven by a variety of psychological
Yeah, UDUF ENTPs are insanely eccentric, and I still have this latent eccentricism that I really struggle with shaking personally from all the many years that I spent UDUF in my life. It's the kind of self-aggrandizement that is not only shameful but very guilt-inducing. I look forward to spending the majority of the rest of my life as a UDSF ENTP, so I don't end up just as bad as someone like this man. My goodness.
factors that will break down as his interrogation progresses.
Notice how all three of these suspects are unconscious focused, okay? Unconscious focused in terms of a person's psyche is very dangerous.
My mom kind of took him under her wing, trying to help him. He mentioned that he's autistic, and so he has trouble finding work. And it wasn't too long before that
It's interesting because oftentimes UDUF ENTPs do get diagnosed with autism without not actually being autistic.
my youngest son was diagnosed with autism.
An SDSF ENTP is more likely, just as much as an SDSF ENTP male, and is more likely to be diagnosed autistic than a UDUF ENTP. It still happens, but again, it's not actually true.
So that was our kind of like our instant connection. He did a lot of family things with us. He spent Easter with us. He's gone to dinners with us.
Okay, so she's extrovert sensing. She's extrovert sensing, optimistic. I'd say that she's likely extrovert sensing child with unconscious focus, gluttony, deadly sin. So I'd say this is an ENTJ woman. She sounds SDUF as an ENTJ woman.
So we're pretty close. I mean, he calls me his sister. He calls my mom.
Really? Yeah, it soundproof, huh?
It's kind of a nice place.
Yeah, it's probably soundproof
Brand new.
so that people,
Well, people can get loud in holding cells, because sometimes we bring like drunks here from driving.
drunks are the worst.
Yeah. Not a big fan of them.
Not a big fan of them. Like, I protect people, like I said.
Russell persistently claims that he owns a protection business. He unshakingly asserts that
Yeah, okay, so he is deriving cognitive origin of justification by saying protection business over and over and over again. This is an extroverted thinking child speaking from within the ESFP superego. And he's drawing justification through extroverted sensing demon to actually make that position.
this, and the police don't at any point question it. When individuals are convinced of something untrue despite all evidence indicating otherwise for an extended period, they're said to hold a delusion. Oftentimes, delusions are bizarre.
Yeah, UDUF ENTPs are very, very delusional, and I remember being insanely delusional as a UDUF ENTP for like the majority of my 20s. Extremely delusional, and I was extremely delusional, especially when my ESTP mentor first found me. Like it was sick. I entirely work hard to not ever become the person that I used to be in my 20s. But even like, and since then, because of this like insane disgust that I have with myself at being UDUF, throughout the majority of my life, because yeah, what caused me to be UDUF was definitely not my fault, but it is my responsibility to keep myself out of UDUF whenever possible. And the problem is with UDF ENTPs, you have a tendency to get used to, you're already used to having your own personal boundaries violated. So you end up being used to violating other people's boundaries on a regular basis. And it just creates this really horrible habit. And it takes you a long time to respect other people's boundaries, but that doesn't happen until you start enforcing your boundaries, basically. And that's one technique that a UDF ENTP can utilize to get into UDSF.
Are, meaning they're highly improbable or not set in reality. E.g., an individual consistently believes that the neighbor reads minds. Other times, delusions are non-bizarre, involving beliefs that are within the realm of possibility, e.g., consistently believing one is being followed. Russell's protection bit non-bizarre, tact to.
I always try and talk to the person.
Yeah.
Her father is a drunk,
Uh-huh.
compared to what she's told me. And I've
Okay.
only talked to him over the phone probably once or twice.
Uh-huh.
He seemed really not that good of a father.
Really?
Yeah, he,
Her father?
He's still trying to produce justification.
yeah.
Who is her father's name, you know?
All I know him as
If I know.
is, Aaron. That's all I know. Of course, then again, I know, like, Aaron Martinez, Aaron, her father, but I don't know his last name. And I know Aaron Novi. So.
Yeah, that's they're implying that's his handwriting.
Okay.
Russell starts rambling, and the investigator allows him to do this. This is a strategy to keep the accused talking so they feel comfortable.
Yeah, UDUF ENTPs have a huge rambling problem. There's actually like a long time within myself on this YouTube channel, so many people would complain about rambling, and I still have some bad rambling habits, and it's really just remnant of me being UDUF for so long.
And the more comfortable a person feels, the more likely they are to say something incriminating. This is also a way for the officer to build trust.
I met him when I was living in Medford, working at a place called the Purple Parrot. He was trying to find a job so he could find a place to live because he was homeless. He was very sweet, very clean cut, very nice. He's just a savior. That's all he wanted to do was help people. All his life he was let down. He went from foster home to foster home to foster home. So I would let him come in to get warm. And then one day he didn't even have a coat. And it was like 3 degrees. And I go, "Where are you going?" And he says, "Well, I'm just going to walk around until McDonald's opens." And I'm like, no, you're going to come home with me so you'll be warm. I felt like, enough was enough. This poor kid needs some help.
Okay, so that's an ENFJ woman.
No one's going to help him.
I think it was like a good 2 years that he was in our lives. Mostly in my mom's life. Like he really did become like a son to her. Anytime he was looking for help or willing to take help, she would help him.
Russell stated previously that he's diagnosed with autism. As a neurodiverse individual, Russell likely...
Okay, oh my gosh, they're doing the neurodivergent crap again. Don't buy into the neurodivergent crap. There is no such thing as neurodivergent. There's no such thing. It's just a form of psychological racism, psychological prejudice. It's not a thing.
struggles with certain aspects of communication. Although he largely displays well-developed social skills, not directly related to the conflict as others.
I don't think I've met her before.
You don't want
Circumstantial
I've never met
speech is
you,
just
and
being
I don't
informative.
think I've met
to. Yeah,
the other guy
the
either.
hunting rifle. Yeah.
Is it a nice one, or?
I've never seen it.
Oh, okay.
I've never met
How'd
her.
you know he had one?
She told me.
Oh, okay.
Because he
Oh, like
likes
that,
to
so-
drink a lot.
Oh, okay.
So, and the other night, the reason why I was helping her was because he went into her room and laid next to her.
I don't like where this is going. Really? She tell you that?
Yeah, and that's why I got her out.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so he just said, and that's why I got her out. This is another ENTP trying to create a false narrative. He's trying to lay down the foundation for a false narrative here, because what he's trying to say is that he's going to try to make it look like, oh, well, I didn't know Gavin was going to murder him. I shouldn't be involved with that. I'm not the getaway driver. You know, I'm innocent, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's the narrative he is attempting to build at this point. In the same way that we noticed how Gavin earlier was trying to build a narrative, but then Gavin just gave up because he realized his Effie child finally kicked in, and he realized that there's just no point. You know, the outcome is there. ISFJ subconscious is like, there's just no point. May as well cooperate. Maybe they'll just be easier on me at this. And he just threw his hands up and gave up.
Yeah, we went down to the park. We met up there. I told her just like leave everything.
Yeah.
And just like get the hell out of there. Grab like
What
a bag
park?
of clothes. Union, I think.
He says Union is a question, with his voice trailing upward. These are both indications that he may be lying. He hasn't said prior to this, so it's not a normal.
That's true. That is an extroverted sensing technique that you could utilize to detect lying.
Pattern of his speech, and you're lying.
Yeah, protector of people, so. Okay.
This isn't the first time Russell has claimed to be a protector of people.
He looks out for people.
Yeah, it's because the UDF ENTP is basically fantasizing about being an ISFJ, even though it can't really be an ISFJ. He needs to get to a point where he's focusing on his subconscious, but he can't. He has to unconscious focus in order for the sake of his survival. So he ends up fantasizing about the opportunity of him being able to become more ISFJ over time.
And I think that he takes it a little too far. One of my family members drank a lot, and he wanted to go over and beat him up because he was emotionally abusive to me. I really disagree on what he did, but I think that he had the right intentions. He would always give you a jacket off his back. I mean, he did it in the worst way, but he just cares.
And he also had this grand idea of creating a community for homeless people, or just young people that need help, that don't have help. So it's like he was always trying to go out.
Yeah, the typical ENTP story of using their misery as their ministry.
And resource that, like trying to build that up. He still does. He still talks about that. People looked at him like a protector, and he really liked that. It made him feel valued, gave him a sense of purpose.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. He's trying to derive purpose from that. He's trying to find his purpose, and that's why he fantasizes about his ISFJ subconscious so much.
That was another problem. He didn't really have a sense of purpose. He was just kind of left in the wind.
Aimless life with that introverted feeling, masculine primary, so obsessed with purpose.
People piss me off, and they become the, not really target in a bad way.
Yeah.
Just like target as in like someone that needs a firm talking to.
Okay.
Or a slap across the face, depending on the situation.
How much do they pay you for that? Have you been paid yet, or?
Not financially.
No. Okay.
Because I can't legally work with the SSI.
Yeah.
Because I can only work under the table jobs.
Yeah.
And those don't really.
How much SSI do you get?
$7.35 plus a $22 check.
Net a month?
Yeah.
Russell begins giving the officer details of his family and personal life, which is a good indication he's developed trust with him. The investigators enter the room, and the officer asks one of them to step out.
Can I talk to you for just a quick minute? Hey, take care, buddy.
You do.
Likely to brief him on what they discuss that is relevant to the case, to see if he is consistent, and possibly to also let him know a little about his personality. So the investigator knows the best approach and techniques.
All right, so they have the ESTJ on this ENTP. So let's look at the difference between how an SDUF ENTP is interrogated by this ESTJ compared to UDF1.
To deploy and getting what he needs from the interrogation.
Before we get too wrapped up in this thing, I just got here to work.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to explain why we're here today for you, and just have
I don't even know why I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to have you just sit and listen to what the story is. And,
Okay. Yeah, I have nothing to hide, so.
Okay, good. You were very cooperative with us
Yeah.
on that last deal. And
Except for when the car like drove up onto the sidewalk, I was like a little bit startled.
Yeah, surprised, right?
Yeah. Not too surprised in my line of work.
And then they told me to get on the ground, and I was trying to go on the ground.
Okay.
And they actually, like, helped me onto the ground. So, like, they told me to get on the ground, so
He's never on the ground.
I'm trying to get on the ground. You don't have to push my ass. Seriously.
How is this guy, like, completely ignorant of the fact that everything is recorded? But then again, that's the problem with UDF ENTPs. They actually have less available memory because they're so in their ESFP superego often that they don't really use their introverted sensing inferior as much. They really need to utilize that that cognitive gateway in as much as that they would need to be able to get into their subconscious anyway, away from their superego, to be able to get to the point where they're subconscious focused. But that's why, like, UDF ENTPs are so bad at narrative and lying, really, because they have that ESFP perspective of, oh, it's all about what you believe, not about necessarily what's true, just a little bit, TI parent can turn on and actually do its job, but it's not as common.
Seriously? I can do it on my own, damn it.
Take a moment to place yourself in Russell's shoes. This is more than likely not something someone would say to a member of law enforcement in this situation. It's not tactical, let alone...
Yeah, because he's exposing his internal monologue. Because that's the thing about ENTPs. Sometimes they will tell you something, but their internal monologue is different, and then they'll share their internal monologue with somebody else, even though that's not actually what they said. And this sometimes makes ENTPs look like they're liars when they're not liars. It's just sometimes the ENTP has a really hard time discussing the difference or realizing the difference and saying the difference in terms of what they've actually said to somebody versus what their internal monologue said, basically. And depending on who they're talking to, depending on their level of comfort with someone, they might expose their internal monologue versus what they actually said to an XYZ third party. And then the other party that they are talking to currently in that moment gets to have their internal monologue story, but then they're telling an entirely different story to somebody else that they hid their internal monologue from. So it ends up they're looking like lying, even though intentionally they're not actually lying from an intention perspective. But if you're judging them by their actions, they are. Because they're having a hard time. Because an ENTP exposing their internal monologue, they only do that with people they're comfortable with. And that this is one issue about ENTPs that is not really widely understood. It's a big, big deal. So just keep that in mind. Careful when you're judging ENTPs, because sometimes you don't know what level of comfort or trust they have with you and whether or not they're actually exposing their internal monologue to you or not. And you can't take it personally if they're not. It just has everything to do with their level of comfort. But at the same time, that also opens them to being misjudged as being a liar. And then because they're NTPs, if they are judged that way, then they'll become a liar, because if I'm going to do the time, I may as well do the crime. Be careful.
Remotely helpful. He does this countless times, and it becomes increasingly clear that there are some other disturbing factors at play surrounding his involvement in the crime.
But you seem like a nice guy. The guy that I was talking to seemed like a nice guy, so...
No Sprite?
Perfect.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Now all I need is a cigarette and I'll be happy. But I doubt we can, though.
You want to get a smoke?
Sure.
Do you have any smoke?
I got some in my desk.
Are we allowed to smoke here?
Yeah, we can go outside and smoke.
Oh, outside.
You want to go outside and have a cigarette real quick?
Sure.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, because I smoke, I talk better when I have a cigarette. Because right now I'm, like, stressed out and I don't know what's going on.
The investigators give Russell a drink and allow him to go out and have a cigarette.
Gotta love your SI inferior comfies.
Both things are done to further put him at ease and to gain favor with him. Sometimes it's used as a carrot to get someone to confess, and they will tell the person that they can smoke after they tell them what happened, etc. People being interrogated are sometimes not yet under arrest, so they can leave if they want to, and they certainly cannot be forced to speak. The police try to make them feel less inclined.
Yeah. Forced to speak. Again, this is where these people are failing consistently.
And want to leave by giving them food and drinks and cigarette breaks, and so as not to violate any due process rights. Russell proceeds to tell investigators everything they need to know.
Yeah, due process rights all of a sudden matter in a case that could go in front of a grand jury, even though police can violate your Bill of Rights anytime they want to. Great. Nice one, Mind Temple.
You can sit in that chair over there. Okay. And we'll bring your food in.
I've got the...
Oh, okay. Let me have your pop bottle.
Yeah.
All right.
Frank came with it.
Look at how childlike he is. Oh, the UDF way.
That's soft.
As has been the case with Russell so far, we have few words to explain what exactly it is that happens next.
It's actually nicer than the hospital ones. Hospital ones are kind of mean.
Over the next few minutes, Russell continues to narrate his experience eating McDonald's French fries, but he also
That's ESFP superego.
behaves in ways which
I used to do that. I used to do that, especially in my 20s.
we really don't know how to describe.
You know what would go good with these? Is a furry. No.
It's abstraction ESFP superego. This is classic UDUF, and people, but ENTP as an archetype is so rare. It's so rare, and then on top of that, the UDUF, potentially, it's pretty divergent out there. It's not very common. So so people are just like completely and totally weirded out by it. Now, there's also another possibility. The other possibility is that he's trying to establish a foundation for an insanity plea as well. That could be his narrative building going from that perspective, and leaning into the ESFP chaotic evil Joker in order to actually make that claim, as many UDUF people have done so and succeeded in the past.
Part of the read interrogation technique discussed earlier involves isolation. The goal is to attempts at leak disturbing information critical to.
It wasn't really self-defense so much as it was defending her.
Discussing his own little narrative.
It was, you're listening in on my conversations, aren't you? Camera off. Yeah. I don't care if you're fed or not. I can still twist your little mind.
Okay, again, that chaotic evil ESFP superego, it still could be him trying to establish narrative for an insanity plea. But I'm not entirely sure he's that smart with FI trickster being his masculine primary function. So, gonna go back and forth on that one.
Don't piss me off.
Nothing appears to register for Russell in terms of the gravity of his situation. He's unashamedly confrontational with law.
Yes. He completely destroyed Gavin's narrative too. From that, and it's so interesting putting two ENTPs within a prisoner's dilemma, and then all of a sudden you're getting all these narratives, but there is no actual cohesion in them whatsoever.
Enforcement.
While the narratives could potentially be plausible, they just blow each other out of the water
when they're out of sight. He holds delusions of grandeur specifically related to power.
Yeah, delusions of grandeur. That is one of the biggest issues with UDSF or UDUF and SDUF. Unconscious focus, ENTPs have that problem, but UDUF is especially bad because of the FI masculine primary. That's the delusions of grandeur is basically the only thing that that they hang on to, basically to let the depression without allowing the depression to cause them to commit suicide. That's literally why it happens.
These types of delusions often form when individuals have been in abusive situations in which they were powerless.
And I think that's really why he went to go help, what he thought was helping these people that he got wrapped up in.
I mean, literally for his 21st birthday.
ENTPs are kind of predictable like that, though. They often go out of the way to help other people to either heal other people from abuse that they've suffered or to prevent abuse that other people have suffered. The UDUF approach is more on the healing approach, whereas the SDUF approach is more on the prevention approach. So just keep that in mind.
He had never had a party. I made him a cake. We had a little party at my daughter's house. He ran around with the kids, so even though he's 21, he was playing with 10-year-old, and having a great time. I let him to be a little kid because he told.
Yeah, I let him be a little kid, ENFJ. Yeah, well, the reason why that's happening is because he sacrificed his child function in exchange for his demon's power. Because he's had to in order to survive.
Told me he never got to be a little kid. For kids that are high functioning, they're, very giving, loving. They just want acceptance.
Two cops were nice. Very nice guys. He was actually pretty good too. Very understanding. Actually bought me food last time. And this time. Maybe I should talk to him more often.
Because Russell continues to talk and is making useful and incriminating statements, the investigator will likely let him sit in the room alone, talking for as long as he continues to do so.
Yeah, that for sure.
I ain't no rat.
No, I ain't no rat, even though he is acting like one. It's so funny.
Russell had numerous encounters with law enforcement leading up to this moment. There are several charges on his record preceding this crime, including sodomy.
Oh my gosh, a sodomy charge? So he's a registered sex offender? Or is he a sexual deviant? Not sure.
And abuse in the third degree.
I wonder if I can be an undercover agent.
Delusions of grandeur.
Ooh, that's a really long one. I understand, sir.
There's evidently no one in the room with Russell, so he's either vocalizing an imagined dialogue or hearing someone who's not there.
No, he's not hearing someone. It's self-soothing. It's a form of self-soothing that UDUF ENTPs do, okay? That is not what's happening. It's self-soothing, all right? Because think about it. Extroverted feeling child just wants to be valued and made a priority over everybody else. Okay, that's the interest there. But it doesn't happen because he likely grew up in an environment with a bunch of FE users that would try to use him as their emotional tampon, which means they didn't care about what he thought ever. And so because of that, they never actually valued enough to actually listen to him. So instead, he was forced to listen to them. And then because of that, while he had to spend all this time listening to abusive people, his introverted feeling had to develop rapidly. So this is actually a form of self-soothing. It is not necessarily imagined dialogue or hearing someone.
If the latter is true...
And this is an example where you can utilize Jungian analytical psychology to literally poke holes through an insanity plea, okay? Seriously.
This could be an auditory hallucination, meaning that Russell is hearing something non-existent.
No, it's not an auditory hallucination. Mind Temple continues to get it wrong.
This, coupled with his delusions, would strongly indicate that he is in a state of psychosis.
Yes, that is the only thing factual that you just said here. Yes, because UDUF technically is a state of psychosis. Yes, that's accurate. Okay, but there's so many people living in UDUF, they're on the edge, but they're fine. Okay, so be really careful when you're throwing around judgments like that, Mind Temple. You're getting into that psychological prejudice again.
Individuals commonly reference the word psychotic when they see others acting in an aggressive, unusual, unstable, or other abnormal manner.
Yeah, well, I got that all the time. I mean, even as a UDSF ENTP, I get that from time to time, which is rough, but because it definitely hurts FE child. But at the same time, like, having spent so much of my life in UDUF and having all those neural pathways, I have to work extra hard to try to not make people uncomfortable or try to not come off looking like that. Because you, as an ENTP in that position, when you're no longer UDUF, you've been in UDF a long time, you have those neural pathways, you have to make a choice. The choice is either to lean into dark triad traits or to run away from them as far as you can. And it's all about oscillating between extremes. And that's really hard to do. So you have to really hyper invest in your introverted sensing inferior and try to aspire with it as much as possible, because that's the only way that you can be grounded. This is an example of an ENTP who is not grounded at all. And he's entirely aimless because he lacks self-discipline entirely, because there's been no reason for him to be self-disciplined. The only time he wants to spend anything self-disciplined is in his aspirational form, because he was never allowed to aspire into his introverted sensing as a child. And because he's been had those opportunities taken away, he only wants to use introverted sensing in aspiration mode at all. He does not want to use introverted sensing in inferior mode at all. And this is typical of a UDUF ENTP.
But the technical
or any UDUF person when they're trying to utilize their inferior function.
Definition involves issues with reality testing, distinguishing between what is objectively real and what is objectively not real. Behavioral manifestations may include delusions or hallucinations, and we know that at a minimum, Russell experiences delusions.
Yeah, UDUF means unconscious developed, unconscious focus, guys. It is an octagram. It is a nurtural variant. There are 4 nurtural variants. You have SDSF, subconscious developed, subconscious focused, subconscious developed, unconscious focused, which is SDUF, right? So the first one I mentioned is joy energy. The second one is decay energy, okay? Then there's UDSF, which is hope energy, unconscious developed, subconscious focused. And then UDUF is unconscious developed, unconscious focused, which is despair energy. And he is in despair. And despair people only want to use their inferior functions for aspiration only. They don't even want to use them in their inferior mode because it's just so painful to them, even though that's exactly what they need to do in order to get them out of unconscious focus and into subconscious focus.
We'll later see that Russell previously commented that he suffers from bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder creates abnormal swings from neutral mood states to periods of abnormally high energy and/or irritability or mania to periods of
maybe
low energy and/or sadness or depression. This mental illness affecting nearly 2.6% of the United States population, and list strange is what follows.
You do know I know you're listening, right? So listen here. Ellie Fryer is my client. My protectee.
Yep. Delusions of grandeur. The EFI masculine primary is there. The thing is that there's levels of depth, into UDUF, guys. It starts with sacrificing the inferior function. Then the next the child function. Then the next function that sacrifices the hero function. That's the next level of depth. Then it's the parent function, and then all that's left is the inferior function to let to go. And then when the inferior function is sacrificed, at that point, someone's going to commit something heinous, some type of heinous act. When it comes to UDUF, I suspect that he has a minimum of 3 of the 4 functions sacrificed to the superego at this point, and potentially. I would say that his inferior function is sacrificed. Like, he is 4 out of 4 because he did. It's premeditated murder. I mean, he planned it basically. Okay, so yeah, he is as deep as you can go into psychosis.
I would like to see her. Asking. Being polite. I know you're looking directly at me, aren't you? The information I gave is not worth $6. It's worth a lot more.
Yeah, T child of the ESFP being all piratey.
Russell behaves as though he's a supervillain. He's so removed from the reality of the situation that it may prove difficult to imagine the events that occurred earlier that day.
Well, yeah, but again, he could be setting up for an insanity plea, though. That's still in play. That's still technically in play.
When he accidentally turns off the recording device, he seems surprised that he can do so and begins playing with it. The gravity of the situation he's in is clouded, but we don't yet know by what. He's visibly happy with this new sense of control he feels by being able to turn the recording device on and off.
Red means you can't hear me. Green, you can. Gavin and Ellie are to be released to me because the assault her father did the morning of the incident, defending a female.
That masculine idealism is so terrible, especially from a UDUF situation. Like, seriously, guys, like, we can identify the problem pretty easily with UDUF people, but you have to be, like, really, really careful with them. You have to be super careful because you don't know how far in their UDUF they actually are. And those are the people on the planet who need the most help. It's super important.
Now here's the thing. I know the cops' twisted little pathetic rule game. And actually, sometimes I like to think that I invented the rule book. I'm not exactly bragging, but I use reverse psychology.
Good times.
Which makes me be able to...
Russell steeples his hands, which is a gesture to indicate...
Yeah, that's actually a good point. When it comes to being UDF with despair, there is no amount of medication that could actually do it. Like, they need something else. I mean, some people claim cognitive behavioral therapy does it, but really, just age is what helps people get out of personality disorders the most. But honestly, we need to be conducting a little bit more research on how to treat UDUF because it is definitely an issue. I mean, I've outlined how people can get out of it, but oftentimes people can't really get out of it themselves. They need help. The thing is that UDF people are so bad off and so alienating to other people in general, or so gross or disgusting or cringe or off-putting that people are not even willing to help them. So they end up still stuck in the ditch or stuck in their downward spiral. So it's like, it's a whole new era of psychotherapy that needs to actually be explored.
Superiority over those you're speaking to.
Make you think it's not Gavin, but in fact, your own kid. By reverse psychology. Making you look like the lunatic. We can...
Okay, that's an ESFP demon statement.
Play it the easy way or the hard way. I'm talking nice. You got two choices. One, put a bullet through my head. Or two, for all the evidence that I gave you guys.
So, Mr. Correa in the chat says he's definitely not planning on an insanity plea. He's just impulsive and unmindful. Yeah, it really looks like that. But never underestimate an ENTP's mask. It's really, really dangerous to do so. You have to keep your mind open just in case.
Right there on a silver platter. Right there down.
ENTPs can be amazing actors.
To the last detail. Not one thing missing. A whole list, step by step by step. Even if
Did he just admit to premeditated murder? Oh my gosh, what an idiot.
a third grader could read how easy that was. For one, Ellie is still technically a minor.
Russell is speaking to the officers in a condescending tone and looking at a non-existent watch. He's under the delusion that because he has confessed every detail of the crime step by step.
Oh my gosh, it's like like looking at a way worse form of myself of how I acted in my 20s. Oh my gosh, it's just so ridiculous.
They owe him something now.
Like mid 20s. It's very humbling to watch things like this because it's just like pieces of him. It's like staring back at me in the face. It's like, you used to be a little bit like this. It's really it's terrible.
You want to play hardball? I played baseball when I was younger. Huh?
Oh yeah, hardball, baseball. This is where he's informative about the bat, the murder weapon.
I wouldn't go there. And I know everything that I'm saying is being recorded, and I'm doing it on purpose. I can easily turn the speaker off and rant, and then you guys will come in thinking I'm a loony because you don't hear me.
We already do think you're a loony.
Here's the thing. I'm not the one with the donut fetish. Give a cop a donut, and he'll want a coffee to go with it. Give a mouse a cookie, and he'll want a glass of milk. Give a moose a muffin, and he'll want something else. But here's my favorite one. What is it when a...
Notice he's citing children's books. Like, it just goes to show how UDF people just really were super underdeveloped as children because of all the abuse that they suffered. And abuse ends up creating more abuse. Who knows what this man like suffered in his childhood? Who knows? But I bet it was absolutely terrible.
A cop car is towed by a tow truck. Pulled port.
When the officers don't respond to his threats, Russell begins making police jokes and using police stereotypes. He continues on his narcissistic rant and delusions of having control and dominance in this situation.
Yeah, narcissism.
Oh, we can either tell pig jokes all day, or we can have a little chat. I'm very,
It's just the SE demon just keeps going.
good at convincing people. I think I just said
Again, Russell speaks to someone who is not there. This is either a hallucination or vocalized internal dialogue.
Yeah, it's more likely vocalized internal dialogue, essentially.
So,
again, it's just self-soothing.
Oh, Ellie is to be handed over to me as soon as you guys can get her here.
Yeah, so what's interesting about ENTPs who are acting like this, they are extroverts. What I have noticed about ENTPs at this level of UDUF, they tend to have been like in solitary confinement often in their childhood, basically. And this is basically a survival response from what they had to develop as a child. And if you notice, he's acting very childlike in this situation. So I would say, looking at this person from a psychotherapy perspective and the level of abuse that this person has actually suffered, I would say that he has definitely suffered some solitary confinement in his childhood and potentially on a regular basis, because this is how they would act in solitary confinement, essentially. And that solitary confinement just basically is likely the main source of the psychosis. If you notice that he had a previous charge of sodomy, right? Well, if I want to do the time, I may as well do the crime from an NTP perspective. It's likely that sodomy was a form of projection. And as a result of that, may have been projecting that onto somebody else because it's something that he suffered a lot as a child.
2, Gavin is released so that when Ellie's kid is born, it can have a father.
Ellen had faked a pregnancy, and there was talk that she used this as a tool to motivate Gavin.
The plot thickens. Yes, I knew it. Yes. Ellen utilized the classic Effie Nemesis trick, doing the whole lying and putting pressure on her SDUF boyfriend, and to fake a pregnancy test or to lie about being pregnant, etc. in order to add additional pressure onto these Crusader Men's SI inferiors to act in a way that she wants them to act. Ah, the master manipulator. Oh, those ISFPs, they're so masterful at manipulation. You got to hand it to them. Really, really crazy. As masterful as an ENTP is at manipulation, like the ISFP is so good if it's focused on like one person. You know, it's so good. Like, wow. That's an impressive manipulation on her part. Wow.
Gavin and Russell to kill Aaron.
When she first got locked up, she was trying to tell everybody she was pregnant. She was not pregnant.
She told you she was pregnant?
I've known for about 2 weeks now.
2 weeks? She told you? Okay. Did you tell Ellie you don't want to kill him?
I told her, like, I don't want to do this. And I told her that like...
Yeah, we saw this already.
There's usually something that clicks, and you make a decision on what you're going to do.
The investigator starts establishing premeditation, which is required for a first-degree murder
They already have premeditation established, though.
charge.
How long before you hit Dad with the bat has that conversation come up?
She's been talking about it for a long time. I tried to be civil.
Oh, he's establishing premeditation, not necessarily on the part of Gavin, but on the part of Ellie as well. That's what's happening. My bad.
With Aaron and stuff. I was like, should I offer to go and have a cup of coffee and discuss why he has beef with me?
So going back to you guys getting there around 2:30 in the morning, is it possible you got there earlier than 2:30?
I mean, we were at Union at like about 1:30.
And did you guys have to wait around for a little while?
We did. Ellie was like, just wait till he falls asleep and come in.
And where did you grab the bat from? Where did you grab the bat from before you walked into the front room?
No, I wanted to keep the bat for myself.
Okay.
Ironically, the bat that Gavin wanted to keep for himself, the bat that Gavin used to beat Aaron to death, was the bat that Aaron had on hand for protection. At best, Gavin used the murder weapon that was most convenient. At worst, Gavin took pleasure in this irony, claiming an ultimate power by using Aaron's sense of safety and security as a weapon against him, and walking out the door with it. Perhaps Gavin desired the bat for himself as a trophy.
So now you're walking from Ellie's room with...
Very interesting. Bat as a trophy. I could see that from an SDUF ENTP perspective. I could. With the INTJ shadow in play. I could see that. That is plausible. Most convenient, not entirely sure, but we haven't gotten into any specific details about how the actual altercation took place from Gavin's perspective. Let's see if he actually talks about it.
Bad, and the plan for you is to walk out the front door.
That's what I mean, Ellie wanted me to kill him, but I didn't want to. I was planning on just walking straight out.
Okay, so Ellie wanted to kill him. So, okay, establishing premeditation on her part. There you go.
Front door.
Did you play along with Ellie and say, okay, I'll kill him?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
But then he woke up.
Did you tell Ellie how you were going to kill him?
No.
Did she ever mention, hey, use the bat?
Well, she said that if I wanted to, I could, and I was like, it's not that hard to punch someone in the throat.
Here, Gavin displays an out-of-place, boastful sense of pride over holding violence-related knowledge. This is a strong indicator of aggressive tendencies. Family and numerous friends and acquaintances confirm that Gavin held a violent streak. Another of Gavin's close old friends shared the following.
We used to get together and like play football or different things like that with a bunch of guys we knew. And a couple different times he ended up punching somebody, or like I think he broke someone's nose at one point. And then a couple other times.
Yeah, a lot of SDUF ENTPs throughout my life I know do have like a tendency towards physical violence. It's almost as if they just entirely let go of consequences in the same way like an SP type would, because they're relying heavily on that NI-masculine primary function. And it's like, I could do what I want. I could do what I want. I could do what I want, right? And I could get away with it. You know, that it is pretty prideful.
Yeah, sort of unprovoked, kind of fight somebody at.
It's not it looks unprovoked to everybody else, but it's not unprovoked from the SDUF ENTP's perspective, because it's a lot of things that have piled up over time from which they're drawing justification to make that choice.
At our youth group, it was more of just a one or two thing, and then he would walk away. It's not like he was trying to kill somebody.
I don't want to say SI Inferior Wrath, because the Rosetta Stone is being re-released with a completely different format, unlike anything that we've ever spoken to with anyone. The new Rosetta Stone is only, like, not even, like nobody on the team knows about it, like the specific details about it, other than Fib, and it's entirely different from anything that we've discussed with Origin Axis, Origin Orbit, or it's just entirely different, because being aware of masculine versus, being aware of UCT, Universal Compatibility Theory, is actually, we've been able to expand even further on cognitive origin from a Rosetta Stone perspective. So I'm not going to agree with that statement right now, because that's just, it's new.
At that time, obviously.
An additional past friend described that Gavin displayed unusually aggressive behavior a week preceding the murder.
Yeah, so last time...
Oh, this guy. This ENFP is not credible. They need to stop, relying on this ENFP.
I had seen him. We were just hanging out, smoked a little...
My triple affiliative, it's like, oh yeah, I'm hella affiliative. I'm going to be doing the right thing, guys, and it's just like, okay, dude, that's nice. That's nice that you think you're the arbiter of character for the rest of the human race, but in this case, you're not, dude.
A little bit. He wanted to wrestle me. He's like, I know. He's like, I'm a black belt. We should fight. He's never really wanted to fight. So I didn't know if maybe he was trying to get prepared for, this obviously is afterthoughts. Oh, that's weird,
We got 75 people on the stream, guys. Let's get more likes. Come on.
He wasn't very good at it. I don't think.
We'll have to take a break.
I think he was really a black belt. And it was just what?
Caden, who had attended South Medford High School with Gavin, explained that everyone in the school knew that he was scary and seemed dangerous.
Okay, yeah, well, guess what? Every ENTP who seems scary and dangerous. That's literally how I am treated every day of my life, especially since I oftentimes dress in all black. Whatever. Okay, I mean, that's normal for ENTPs. That's a form of psychological prejudice. Shut up.
When he shared his friend's experience,
he threatened one of my best friends, where he had actually sent a picture of a revolver to him, making the threat that he was going to, harm him. And then when they took it to the school didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, because the school can't do anything about it because he's a minor and he didn't actually take any actual real action. Threats, something like that would be considered assault in some states if he was 18 years old. But because he was a minor at that point in time, that wouldn't have flown at all.
We've watched Gavin cry and state repeatedly that he did not want to kill Aaron. We've also heard friends and family share stories depicting that he was quick to rage, often searching for an outlet for his aggression, whether it existed in tackle football, playful wrestling, or defending his friends. It leads us to a question of whether Aaron was another one of Gavin's outlets.
So she hands you the bat in the bedroom and tells you to go take that out. Okay, what were her exact words?
She said, go out in the front room, take him out, and text me and let me know when it's done. And to me, I was like, okay, so I guess she wants me.
No. He's lying. He's lying there. That's not true.
To kill him, but I don't want to kill him.
So you kick the bin and the dog barks. Where's the dog at?
Sleeping on the couch with him.
How do you know the dog was on the couch with him?
'Cause I was, when we were in the house, I heard, one of the reasons...
Yeah, he's lying. He got caught in a lie. He just got owned.
Used the word like periodically throughout the interrogation, but here, Gavin uses it almost back to back. This is a notable deviation from baseline and a strong
it's deviation from baseline. Yeah, for sure. I agree with the narrator on this.
Indicator of general stress, most likely nervousness in the context of the topic.
Before leaving, because we heard him say, Sadie, move. And I was like, oh, okay. Because, he's probably disturbed a little bit.
Is it possible, Gavin, that you hit him while he was asleep?
I don't think so, no.
Is it possible, though?
It's possible he might still...
Oh, yeah. He's got owned.
Been asleep.
This eliminates any possible self-defense theory his lawyers might have wanted to...
Yep. Self-defense. Completely, They had an insanity plea on the table. They had self-defense on the table. But it's in certain states it's hard to do self-defense in someone else's home. In some states you can do that, like in California you can do that, but like in Texas you can't, for example. So it just depends. But yeah.
Use at trial.
But I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black.
What makes you think that he woke up?
He was like, "What the? Who were
He could have said that the dog started barking. He could have said that.
you?"
But is that after you hit him once or before?
That was before.
Earlier in the interrogation, Gavin had clearly described that Aaron woke up and, in turn, Gavin acted on instinct. He is beginning to contradict himself, but it's not long before we hear the full truth.
Is it possible that he might not have said that and you just hit him while he was asleep on the couch?
I don't know.
Yeah, because he knows he's caught, and he's like he's in that situation where an ENTP gets cognitively when it's like, okay, I got caught in a lie, and they have to hesitate a little bit because they have to make a choice about, okay, do I continue to lie and dig my grave even deeper, or do I not? And FI Trickster is not really very useful to help them weigh that out at that moment. This is where an ENFP is actually better at deception than an ENTP in this situation, because ENFPs can handle being caught way better than ENTPs can. Okay, but he got caught. The contradiction. TI parent doesn't really even know what to do at this point, so it forces him to like start rethinking an entirely new process, maybe even adjusting narrative or an entirely new one, and it takes time. This is how you can catch an ENTP lying, because they're trying to figure out what's more beneficial to the self. Is it to continue to propagate the lie at the risk of digging a deeper grave, or not? And that's what's going on here.
I don't remember.
Are you 100% sure he said who's that? Or could you just be telling me that, thinking that...
Are SDSF the best at lying? SDSF ENTPs don't really lie as much compared to the other ones. So take that for what you will.
Trying to minimize this, making it look a little better.
It's more of like SDSF oftentimes lies via omission. That's usually their preference instead of narrative, which the other three variants utilize narrative a lot, with the UDSF I think probably being the most superior one at narrative, because they're able, because of TI masculine primary in a man. I would say an SDSF ENTP woman is probably better utilizing extroverted feeling, and then utilizing at lying for them. They're probably more capable with it because of the taking advantage of social norms and social etiquettes.
Because
I just hit him while he was asleep. And then
okay, so if you're going to tell the truth, let's tell the truth all the way, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Was he awake when you hit him?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, fully nails him there. So he capitulates because he doesn't see it going well for himself. He figures like maybe so now he's going to be putting his faith into full cooperation will potentially get him off of death row or something like that.
I wasn't wanting to kill him, but then the dog started barking, and I knew where I was. I just
the dog barking. Yeah.
I just snapped because I didn't want to have to deal with him. It was after like the second.
Yeah, he was scared that Aaron Fryer would kill him, which was a legitimate fear. And if he was in a stand your ground state, basically, Aaron Fryer would have been able to kill him and be likely gotten off scot-free.
Getting swing, he was like, "What the?" And then.
Was he ever able to get up off the couch, or did?
No.
And be honest with us. Don't try to minimize things. How many times do you think you hit him?
I think I hit him about 6 times.
6 times?
Yeah, 5 or 6 times.
And were all those hits, where did you swing and hit him at?
Like, his chest and his head.
Okay. Ultimately, did he stop talking, stop moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When did you turn the light on?
Like, I stood there for a little bit.
Well, he is SDUF. That is his situation.
I don't know. It seemed like hours, and I was just like, what did I just do?
Okay.
Like, one time, we were at my mom's house. I told him to come inside. He wouldn't listen to me. So he went outside, and because my mom's in a wheelchair, pushed my mom down the driveway, and my mom fell back and cracked her head open.
Oh my gosh.
I know this might be tough, Gavin, but it's important to know. Can you stand right there for me? Right there. Stand up for me. And tell me that first time you swung the bat, tell me exactly how you swung the bat the first time.
The investigator gets Gavin to reenact the actual murder, which helps both verify the confession and to show his actions match the evidence. This makes a false confession claim harder to get around.
His couch is like right here.
Okay.
His head's right here. I'm standing right here, a little bit at an angle. And I went over the shoulder the first time, and then I started going up above my head.
And the first time you swung it, it was over the shoulder? And all the rest of the times you hit him, did you come up over the top?
Yeah.
You work at Del Taco, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you take some gloves from work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wearing gloves, yeah.
Are they light blue gloves, latex
Yeah.
gloves? And where did you put those on before you went out in the front room?
I had those on the entire time because I didn't want to. I mean, I was really just planning on going.
Yeah, I had him all the time because I didn't want the, fingerprints or whatever. Again, establishing premeditation on his perspective. He's all trying so hard to look innocent, even though he's absolutely not. This is like, typical, no. Seems like a nice kid, but he isn't.
Going in and out and trying to leave leave no fingerprints or anything, so.
And these are the clothes that you were wearing? This that you have on?
No.
Where are the clothes?
I went home and I washed them.
Okay.
Are they in the washer?
Yeah.
Is that over an almond?
No, that was over at Bobby's.
And I have a note here, but who's Bobby?
Bobby Jackson's my best friend, and I'm his best friend. Been that way since like 6th grade.
Ooh, maybe trying to implicate Bobby as an accomplice. We'll see.
And Gavin kind of ended up joining us in that.
Kyle shared that he, Bobby, and Gavin were close, but no one else who he interviewed mentioned that this trio existed. Gavin embodied multiple personas. He didn't belong to any one group, and those he regularly spent time with seemed unaware of
Yeah, but most ENTPs don't. Okay, come on.
Others he regularly spent time with. Interestingly, Kyle and Bobby in one location and Jacob in another claimed that Gavin was living with them at the time of the murder.
We were close. He was actually living with me and another guy and his mother when this all happened.
Gavin's friend Christopher Snow had also reported that Gavin was his roommate at the time. Christopher spoke to the press the day after the murder, explaining he was shocked, disbelieving that Gavin and Ellen were at odds with her.
Yeah, because he's also afraid of being implicated as an accomplice.
Her father. The person who disagreed most with their relationship, according to Christopher, was Ellen's mother.
Does anybody know that you did this besides you and Ellie and RJ? Did you tell anybody else?
No.
Gavin may not have told anyone that he followed through with Aaron's murder, but he certainly talked about wanting to kill him. No one we or the police spoke with commented that they'd suspected he would go through with it, but many commented that he'd spoken of it. In fact, one individual commented that Gavin regularly told others that he could get away with killing someone.
An example would be he would say something along the lines of, I'd be able to get away with killing, it'd be easy, I know all these things, I watch all these documentaries. Like, it was just something.
Yeah, it's almost word for word what the ENTP on Halloween night of last year did to me, because he threatened my life in the same manner, basically. And that could happen. He may make good on his promise, basically. So it's like, okay, wow, it's definitely because like he definitely comes off. I mean, that ENTP's UDUF, he kind of comes off more like Russell, RJ, in this interrogation, that particular ENTP, who did threaten my life on Halloween in downtown Coeur d'Alene. But it's and he definitely certainly talked about it then. Who knows if he continues to do it? But he seemed like he was like pretty high on psychedelics in that moment while that was going down. So who knows? Who really knows? I just tried to de-escalate the situation as much as possible, and luckily it did happen. So
Normal to say. Everything in his life seemed like it was a game to him.
Interestingly, Gavin displays nonverbal behaviors which indicate feelings of insecurity and discomfort. For example, he hunches his shoulders and crosses his arms tightly over his chest, making himself smaller and more contained. Essentially, an upright, adapted version.
You've been 100% honest with me that Ellie was out in the car.
Because
With
I'm a bit
RJ.
confused, because when did she come back in to get the dog?
okay, now the other guy starts asking questions now. All of a sudden we have the other investigator who's in.
She came back in after I hit her dad.
Note that Gavin commented, hit her dad, not killed her dad. This is distancing language, or language that places psychological space between the topic under discussion and the speaker. Either Gavin doesn't register the murder, or he cannot stand the thought that he killed someone.
Why do you think he hit him?
To me, in my eyes, I felt like he was an enemy. Like he was out to hurt me.
Okay.
So.
What do you think happens when you hit somebody in the head with an aluminum bat?
There's a lot of brain damage.
Do you think it could cause somebody to die?
Yeah.
This is to establish another element of first-degree murder, is that it must be committed with some sort of intent to kill the person. The murderer must therefore have attacked or harmed their victim with the purpose of ending their life.
Okay. Did you do anything to try to give him any kind of aid?
No.
And how does Ellie get in the house?
She just comes in through the front door.
Hold on. When she comes through the front door, what does she see?
She sees her dad laying on the couch.
What does she say?
Well, she didn't say anything.
Did it shock her? Was she upset?
Not really, no.
Did you tell her what you did?
No.
Was it obvious?
It was obvious, yeah.
Okay.
This is to show that Ellen knew this was going to happen, and that she was a co-conspirator, so she can't later deny knowing Gavin was planning to kill him.
When Ellie comes in, is he making gurgling noises, or has he stopped making those noises?
He was still gurgling.
Gavin's body language is an extreme show of emotional distress. More genuine than the adapted version we witnessed previously, he is sitting in an upright fetal position, holding his knees to his chest. Then his vocal tone...
Outside, or does she stay in the house?
All about SI inferior, self-soothing.
House with the dog.
She just goes outside. RJ and I, we opened the trunk, and then we...
Okay, so when she came in through the door, remember, this is Ellen, the ISFP girl. She's coping with apathy, which is typical for U to UF ISFP woman to do. It's coping with apathy.
Put him in there.
Okay, tell me about, let's back it up and walk through that slowly.
I'm sorry.
Individuals compress their lips under periods of great distress. Gavin's lips have disappeared.
And RJ came in to the front door?
He's still trying to protect Ellie, even though it's not really working.
And RJ saw it. What did RJ say to you?
He was like, "Oh God, that's gross." And then I was like, "Okay, you grab his feet, and then we'll get him out to the trunk." And then we kind of drug it through the yard, and then we just like lift him up into the trunk.
Except there's some details about wrapping his head and wrapping the body in the process that is left out.
You're in the house. Do you guys go back into the house after?
This is to establish a possible burglary charge. It also shows the callousness and lack of remorse after the fact for the crime.
Do you remember getting any money in the house?
Oh yeah, she went and took some money from her dad's wallet. Yeah.
How much cash did she get?
She said it was like $40.
Okay. From his wallet?
Yeah.
So he obviously didn't have his wallet on him.
Yeah.
Ellen can argue that she planned this to protect her sisters, and she can argue that he abused her, but few words, if any, explain why she would possess any moral justification to steal from her recently murdered father.
What was he wearing on the couch when you turned the light on?
He was wearing a black Raider shirt and a pair of black shorts.
Okay. When did she first bring up that she wanted her dad dead?
Like after he slapped her. And
How long ago? How long ago was that?
Like, this was a week before she texted me about the...
This shows that this specific incident of abuse was not the motive for the murder, at least not for Ellen.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I absolutely agree, Jacob, with what you're saying. Definitely, Ellen was definitely way more involved, she was saying. It's like she was like an orchestrator. RJ was, following his delusions of grandeur, imagining to himself that he's helping somebody, etc., and feeling, and he feels justified, and then she's also using the pregnancy as a way to provide motivation to these two men, essentially. But yeah, I agree with that.
A prosecutor might submit to a jury that the likely actual motive for the killing of her father was him not letting his minor daughter and Gavin date.
Okay, and then once, as that conversation developed, did you ever come to what are we going to do with him afterwards?
I mean, RJ was like trying to tell me I have a friend. We can go up, leave the car there. He can tear the car apart. That way, there's no car left.
I'm very
Oh my God.
good at convincing people.
So when do you go to Bobby's house?
Bobby's, I stopped by. I just like swapped clothes and I left again. No one was awake.
So and then you end up over on Almond Street. Okay.
Investigators later learned that Gavin had led them astray, hoping they would stop by Bobby's house so his friends would know that something had happened.
And run through us with what you were wearing at the time.
So he was lying about that. My initial theory was that he was trying to maybe establish one of those guys as a potential accomplice, but in reality situation, it was more of like a subtle communication or a nod. It's possible that maybe that would have been like a signal of some kind to a third party, but who knows?
And you hit him with the bat.
I was wearing my gray hoodie. And
Not that one?
It was a gray pullover hoodie.
Okay.
It wasn't this one, no.
Okay.
Like all my hoodies are
What was
gray.
on under the gray hoodie?
And then I had on it was my Batman T-shirt, I think.
Okay.
And that I think I actually
Masturbation.
left at the house, but I don't think there was any blood or anything on that.
And what pants were you wearing?
Well, I'm still wearing the same pants. I didn't change my pants. I just changed my jacket.
So you were wearing those pants?
Yeah.
And what shoes were you wearing?
I was wearing my boots.
The ones you have on now?
Yeah.
Or the ones, I don't think you're wearing them now,
Well,
right?
they took them off, yeah.
Okay. What do you do when you get to the location where you guys dump Aaron?
We kind of sit there and we're like, nature. It was peaceful and it was relaxing.
Gavin discusses how it was peaceful and relaxing looking at the woods and lake while sitting in the car with Aaron's dead body in the trunk. This shows a serious lack of remorse.
When you get there, though, what do you guys do?
Oh, I'm sorry. So we kind of sat and we kind of enjoyed the view because it was nice out.
Gavin goes off on a tangent, displaying a symptom characteristic to his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder diagnosis.
No, he's an ENTP. We tangent all the time.
A focus.
And then what happened?
And then we're like, okay, let's get this done before anyone drives by or anything.
How did you get him out of the trunk? By himself or with the blanket?
I kind of just went up and grabbed him by underneath the shoulders and lifted him.
Okay.
So, and then RJ kind of like picked up his legs. It was the blanket pillow and all, and then we just like let it roll and it kind of wrapped itself up. So when it was rolling down the hill, the tarp wrapped itself up around him. I kind of tried to wrap him up a little bit, like cover up his feet.
The investigators keep a cool head while Gavin describes throwing Aaron's body off the embankment, along with some trash.
Is there still any blood in the trunk?
I don't know. I think there's still some on the outside because he was kind of leaking everywhere.
Okay. And then where do you guys go from there?
And then we're like, okay, which way to Walmart? And that's when we went to Walmart.
Where does RJ stay?
He just stays outside and smokes.
And where did he get those cigarettes?
Those were her dad's.
Remember what kind of cigarettes they were?
They were Camel 99s.
Okay. Ultimately, you and Ellie go in, you buy some junk food. Did she buy a pregnancy test?
Yeah.
Then you guys come out of Walmart.
And we were going to SSI, like, Ellie and I went upstairs because she had to use the restroom. And she also was going to check out the hair dye, so I gave her the hair dye, she went to the bathroom. She came back out, was like, this is the wrong stuff, we need to go return it. We went back to Walmart, and we got the refund of $9.77, was the refund. And then we go back out.
Picky about makeup and hair dye, sneaking out of a bedroom window to see a forbidden older boyfriend, and conspiracy to commit patricide. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong.
Gotcha. something? Bathroom water or something like that?
Can I get some water, please?
Yeah. You want a soda or anything?
No, do you guys have Mountain Dew?
Yeah. Okay. You want to do?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't understand why you guys are being so nice to me. I mean, considering I just killed someone.
Wait. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Gavin is offered a drink, and he states how nice the police are being to him, showing that the Reed tactic they have employed has worked well, and they're seen as allies to him.
And the realization.
It proves difficult to determine whether Gavin is experiencing true remorse over what he's done, or regret over the repercussions, or both. Whatever the case, Gavin's emotionality indicates that he didn't go about this entirely in control and intelligently. Up to this point, we can reasonably speculate that Gavin displays aggressive tendencies, violent behavior, and impulsivity. There's more to this story, but we'll cover that later. Gavin had displayed concerning behavior throughout childhood into adulthood, so much so that he was considered a possible threat to others at South Medford High School.
People talk about schools having like a list of kids who are potential threats. I'd say he was like the poster child for that person at our school. It was like an understood thing, you know, about Gavin, that's kind of the person that he was. Kind of a scary person, not someone you would think to mess with.
Yeah, it just kind of gave me like an off vibe sometimes. You know, everyone jokes around like, okay, if we had a school shooter,
So talked about not someone that you want to mess with. It's because like what ENTPs end up doing, they feel so weak all the time with their SI inferior that they project strength out with their extroverted sensing demon. Even though I'm weak, I'm going to look dangerous so that no one messes with me because I'm actually really afraid of someone being messed with. When in the reality situation, they should actually just develop their SI inferior in using self-discipline and actually make themselves actually dangerous, you know, in terms of their skills, like, for example, combat training. You know, that's way more useful, right? A lot more useful. So probably from that point of view, it's entirely necessary. But they don't they don't understand how oftentimes that backfires. They should really just actually do the actual work to make themselves strong instead of looking dangerous. And a lot of times ENTPs just don't really understand that.
probably be him.
Anything concerning with Gavin?
Yes, we did a threat assessment, a threat to others assessment. I can't remember when he grabbed a student's breasts and was inappropriate on a few occasions. We also, I believe, did a risk to self assessment on him at least once, like that he'd said he was going to kill himself.
Yeah, something split in his head, man. Something he cracked. Like I said, it's like she did help kill her dad, but like I swear to God, you know, she was crazy. From what I heard, you know, she did some crazy shit, but I don't think she would have killed her dad.
All right. How you doing?
I'm barely awake.
You are? I'll tell you, if I was at a police department, I would be wide awake.
Detective Smith is consistently direct with Ellen. She implies here that Ellen should be more alert, despite Ellen being sleep-deprived because of the circumstances. This seems rather counterintuitive, considering that Ellen is already displaying high levels of resistance, which interrogators typically counter with empathy and kindness.
We talk to everybody that is involved, and then...
Oh, yeah. Here comes the delusion. Hi, I'm going to put on a show and make myself look a certain thing in order to get out of this situation. Rush me to the hospital, please, so I can get out of this uncomfortable situation.
You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've been under the weather lately.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Ellen makes poor attempts at eliciting sympathy in whatever way she can throughout the interrogation, but the investigator pays little mind.
No, this girl is the ISFP, guys. This is the ISFP.
Implying that Ellen is, for lack of a better word, dramatic. This is markedly histrionic behavior. Histrionic essentially means melodramatic. In the mental health world, histrionic behavior is heavily and unsurprisingly present in histrionic personality disorder. It can be a symptom of a variety of other disorders as well, but generally refers to maladaptive, attention-seeking, and exaggerated behavior.
And then we talk and try to like hammer out and figure out who's saying what's going on, and try to really get the real story from everybody, okay?
Of course.
Is it okay if I keep talking to you kind of about what we've learned?
Mhm.
Okay. And then if you feel like letting me know stuff, you can do that. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Okay. So, this morning when the police were called to your house, it was because your sisters actually saw you and Gavin and somebody else in there, a couple other people in there leaving. Then they saw a lot of blood in the house, okay? So then what they did was call Michelle. You know Michelle?
No, I don't know Michelle.
I'm pretty sure that's her name. Your dad's girlfriend who was over at the house last night?
Oh, Mickey.
Mickey! Thank you.
Her name's Mickey.
Okay. Thanks for helping me out. They called Mickey and then ran to your mom's house, and so everybody's really concerned and worried about you and your dad, because we actually don't know where your dad is right now.
That's really frustrating. That's really disturbing to hear.
I agree.
Consistent with previous displays, this behavior is more than awkward. It's uncomfortable, what some might call cringy to watch. We can tell she's attempting to muster up and
obviously. She's trying to spin narrative that she has absolutely no control, and she keeps going, transitioning back and forth.
Replicate something resembling.
Whereas, like, when you're looking at Gavin's interrogation, he wasn't really cognitive transitioning much. Not really. He was basically stuck in his ego because the FI inferior of the ESTJ was keeping him present in his ego basically the whole time, because that's where the TI function was.
Resembling shock, panic, or concern, but she falls considerably short of the mark. Nonverbal experts might determine she is being disingenuous from reading her robotic arm movements, chiral facial expression, or incongruent verbal and nonverbal communication. Even her word choice comes off as suspicious. Imagine being detained, missing, and there is that is very expression challenges Ellen. She lays all the evidence moment and involves Ellen. Ellen's might be
We're a little bit disturbed by that as well. Because they're scared that they saw you leaving. They're scared there's blood in your house, and they're scared that nobody knows where your dad is. So they're awfully little to have those kinds of worries.
Maybe he was looking for me.
So where did all the blood
Maybe this, maybe that. You don't know any trickster TE inferior
come from in your house?
I don't know.
Okay. Mickey knows that you were there, Sierra was there, Olivia was there, your dad was there. So it would be nice if we could get some of this figured out. And like I said,
Detective Smith makes a skillful confrontation about figuring out what's going on, without making a direct contradiction to Ellen, who begins to gesture and move without purpose. For instance, she momentarily glances at her nails here. These meaningless gestures and movements grow to be progressively more pronounced. Meaningless movement, otherwise known as fidgeting, is a widely known nonverbal indicator of nervousness. Pay attention to the topic of conversation.
Yeah, of course, TE inferior is coming out there.
During time.
Gavin, somebody else is talking to Mike. Oh,
Remember, the woman in blue is an ESFJ.
got a little owie there.
What's that?
Okay. So, it would be nice if we could get on the same page now, okay?
Excuse me, what's your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, I'm barely awake right now, and I barely have any recollection of what happened yesterday or within the 24 hours.
Do you need coffee?
I hate coffee.
Okay.
I try to stay away from caffeine and other chemicals.
And you don't eat meat. Is there anything we can get you, like, from a fast food restaurant that would...
No, thank you.
Okay.
In all honesty, I don't feel like I deserve that.
You don't deserve food? Why?
Finally, Ellen expresses something resembling guilt. At least that is what it seemed like before she said,
I don't feel like I deserve any of my basic human rights.
Oh.
Especially when it comes to my father.
Okay, help me understand that.
Basic human rights. Oh my gosh, this is such a little TE inferior smokescreen. Trying to do FE nemesis to try to, like, cultivate sympathy from another person. Give me your empathy, please. Give me your empathy, please. But no, the ESFJ is not buying it.
They've shamed me for the way that I eat for years.
Okay.
Oh, I've been shamed.
Like in what way?
Just shaming me.
Well, you don't eat meat. Do they comment about that?
My dad ridicules me for that.
Okay. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with you being hungry and us wanting to go out and grab you something if you want
Doesn't have anything to do with it.
something.
No, thank you.
Okay.
But thank you for the offer.
Well, you bet. Yeah.
Some may feel bad for Ellen, but keep in mind what she was recently part of. It could
Some may feel bad. No, we're not.
be that her father ridiculing her over food was only one piece to the puzzle that set her off. But fixating on this detail in this moment, going so far as to share it with Detective Smith, indicates egocentrism, which involves interpreting life as though it exclusively revolves around the self, and maladaptive self-pity. There could be a persecution complex here. If Ellen holds a persecution complex, she possesses a persistent belief that others have malintent toward her. It's hard to determine whether there's mental illness involved at this point. She could be playing the sympathy card.
Tell me about Gavin being at the house this morning.
He was walking with me everywhere, so if we went there, then he was there.
Okay. And what were you guys doing there?
Probably I don't know.
I know.
I don't know.
Asleep.
Again, I am absolutely not
Excuses.
trying to sound rude, but some things I just kind of have to lay out, okay?
I understand.
Are you an AP student?
Yes.
You take AP classes? Taking AP classes.
She is being accused of conspiracy to murder her father, premeditated murder one.
You've got to work really hard in those classes, and I know that. Okay, so I know there were times you were really super tired and you were still studying. So for you to sit here and tell me how tired you are and you can't remember, I feel like maybe that's just an excuse because you don't want to talk about something that's super hard to talk about.
Detective Smith
Super hard to talk about.
is narrowing the ability for Ellen to be evasive.
We are all trying to piece together what happened because we're very...
Yeah, it's expert intuition child on the part of the ESFJ, basically limiting options for the NI child, which is really good. And again, like I said previously, choosing an ESFJ to do an interrogation is a very, very good idea.
Worried about your dad. And I get that it doesn't sound like to you he was the best dad.
Of course I'm going to be worried about him. He might have abused me for most of my life, but he's still my father.
Ellen uses every opportunity to sneak in a comment about how her father was abusive. Again, we re-arrive at the idea that Ellen is not fully aware or functional during this interrogation, only because she is so poorly lying and concealing her negative feelings toward her father, which would, as Ellen might logically reason, add to motive. She's reportedly intellectually gifted. It raises a question as to whether Ellen
and most UDUF ISFPs are.
is attempting to pull off shock, or whether she's a 15-year-old struggling to comprehend how to get out of a bad situation.
So one of the things that has also happened is South Medford High School has a school resource officer, and apparently you're still a student there. And you had like a band thing this weekend, and your dad came and picked you up from the school at like 3 a.m?
Ellen coughs nearly every time she takes a drink and looks up to Detective Smith to see her reaction. This is histrionic, dramatic, and pity-seeking.
Yeah, it is pity-seeking, but it's extroverted sensing parent trying to look for the reactions, trying to see. She's trying to figure out if there are any chinks or cracks in the armor of the detective, basically, to see if there's anything she could capitalize on. And trying to create, it's just extroverted sensing parent trying to get reactions so that she knows what to do tactically.
Behavior. But it also occurs each time the conversation becomes more heated. Note that Detective Smith is quite direct in her confrontation in this moment.
Are you going to choke on your water? It worries me.
My throat's burning right now.
Okay.
Are you going to choke on your water? Okay, but the problem is, though, is that the ESFJ may have just given her a choice by saying that. And it might actually fit her narrative, like her narrative building afterwards.
Well, you're welcome to drink the water.
Because if she starts, choking on the water, she got the idea basically from the TI inferior with her TE inferior from the TI inferior of the detective.
But if it's going to hurt, maybe give it a little break. Does that sound okay? Anyway, have you met Officer Jackson? He's a school resource officer at South?
No.
Okay.
I haven't.
So Officer Jackson says you are a current student there. Why would Officer Jackson say that?
I don't
I
know.
think because you're a current student there and you're kind of pulling my leg a little bit.
No.
Pulling my leg.
And that you're in band.
I do know about a lot of underage people having marijuana, though.
Okay. Well, that's...
Trying to like, hey, I'll give you information if you let me off the hook. Oh, God, let's cut a deal.
Probably a dime a dozen.
Little interest-based ISFP here.
In these days.
Ellen makes an additional attempt to divert attention away from her wrongdoing onto someone else's wrongdoing. This is
blame shifting,
otherwise known as deflection, and it's Ellen's favorite type of defense mechanism.
I've had temporary amnesia in the past.
Okay, no one's gonna believe you. I've had this. SI Critic is trying.
There was a couple of instances where I have passed out and lost my vision and my...
Yeah, because she's had to utilize these tactics before in the past, and it's possible her expert intuition trickster and Effie inferior father fell for it multiple times.
memory.
Okay.
And
So she figured, oh, if I could fool this TI hero, I could fool anybody.
it was when I had a throat stone.
Do you have a throat stone right now?
No, that
Oh.
was a while ago.
Okay. So when you have this temporary amnesia, who takes you to the doctor?
I don't really talk to anybody or reach out.
You would certainly tell your mom or your dad if you have temporary amnesia.
I feel like I can't really go to them for anything. I feel like I'm a bother.
Where's your dad?
I feel like I'm a bother.
If you needed to get a hold of your dad right this second, what would you do?
No, call a cell phone.
What's his career, or what does he know how to do?
Sometimes he does, like, yard work or something.
What was the last job he did?
Like I said, a roofing job or something.
Oh, the
Something on
roofing job?
roof.
You said for a neighbor?
Yeah,
Okay.
Roofing
Did he get
job.
paid for that?
I believe so.
How much money did he get for that?
I don't know, Stephanie.
Okay. Okay. You know, I'm just trying to figure out what happened. That's all.
I'm trying to piece together everything right now.
Well, so far you've told me you're 18 and your name is Rain. And I'm here to tell you, you're 15 and your name is Ellie. Okay, maybe you go by Rain. Do you go by Rain?
Yes,
Okay.
Rain and Rose.
So your friend would know you as that. Like Russell goes by Mike? Okay.
Note that while Ellen has allowed Detective Smith to state that her name is Ellie and she's 15, Ellen has not accepted blame or outright acknowledged that she was lying. Ellen's lies surrounding her identity could indicate that dissociation is present. Ellen would be in a state of dissociation in this moment if she's protecting herself by psychologically separating herself from something, in this case, her identity. Separating oneself from one's identity is a form of dissociation termed depersonalization. For example, she wants to be someone else who did not conspire to kill her father and potentially go through traumatic abuse.
Rose. They call me Rose. I'm so out of it right now. I haven't taken...
Yeah, so out of it right now. To the point where I, too, am also so out of it right now. I'm exhausted. So, all right, folks, that's it for part 3 of this particular case. So, yeah, let's keep at it for the future. But, yeah, that's a solid 2 hours. So, anyway, thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll be doing some more true crime analysis in the future. Later.